Now, in vectors, if you are preparing for an MDCAT exam or AKU exam, you should not be finding shortcuts, okay? Because you need to do everything. Like, that's a general rule. Everything needs to be covered. In MDCAT, I know the syllabus was changed recently and has been a shorter version of the textbook. It's not the entire textbook anymore, but you still should be well prepared, okay? Now, the guidance I'm giving you are the topics that you need to self study yourself and prepare them very well during your self study. If you prepare them, then your chances of getting a very good score is quite high. Okay, let's start. Now, it goes without saying that you need to read the textbook because question can come from anywhere. This chapter, vectors and equilibrium, has a bunch of topics that needs to be covered. These include the rectangular coordinate system basically, or in short, the rectangular components of a vector, addition and subtraction of a vector by a scalar. That's the first topic. You need to know that. Addition of a vector, resultant vector, head to tail rule basically. Addition, subtraction, everything is going to be covered by the same head to tail rule. Multiplication by a scalar will increase the vector size or decrease the vector size depending on what factor you are multiplying it with, right? If you are multiplying it with a fraction, then it might decrease it as well. Null vector, unit vector are important. You should know about parallel and anti-parallel vectors as well. You should know about calculation of vector components, okay? How a cos theta and a sin theta, remember the horizontal and vertical component, cos theta and sin theta, you need to know that. And how do you calculate the resultant using them, using the Pythagoras theorem and stuff. You also should know how to calculate the magnitude of a vector from its components. Under root ax squared plus ay squared plus az squared. If you guys recall this formula, it's basically a square root and then the squares of the individual components of the vector, they need to be added together. Vector addition by rectangular components, you don't need to do this. If you know about vector addition with head to tail rule, but that's more than enough. Now, let me tell you an insider important thing, that the examples which are given in the textbook, especially if you are preparing for AKU, the examples in the Punjab board textbook, they may be repeated exactly because this has happened in the past exams as well. Then scalar product and vector product. Scalar product, which is the dot product, and vector product, which is the cross product, should be very well done. From scalar product, they usually give you two vectors and they ask you to find out the angle between those two vectors. So, and the vector equation is generally given. Most of the times, all you need to do is just find out the scalar product, which will turn out to be 0. That automatically indicates that the angle is 90 degrees because perpendicular vectors have a scalar product of 0, right? This is a tricky question that came on the exam quite frequently. You should be done with that. And then vector product. Vector product is used to calculate or find the area in between the two vectors, right? You might have heard of stuff like that. So area in between the two vectors can be calculated using the vector product, or the formula of vector product and the formula of scalar product need to be known. AB cos theta is the scalar product formula, AB sin theta is the vector product formula. You need to know that. And then the unit vectors themselves being crossed and dot, meaning vector I being dot product of I and j will result in k, dot product of j and k will result in I, stuff like that, okay? You need to know all of those individual cases. Ij will give you k, jk will give you I, and ik will give you j, I think. Yeah, stuff like that. And if you reverse them, it doesn't really matter because in dot product it doesn't matter where you place them, results will have the same answers, but the same vector, if it is being dotted against itself, will result in 1 as the answer. I dot j, sorry, The dot product of perpendicular vectors is always 0, remember, and if the dot product of a vector with itself, it will always result in 1. So I dotted against I will give you an answer of 1, j dotted against j will give you an answer of 1, k dotted against k will give you an answer of 1. Vector product, however, is different. I crossed with j will give you k. Okay, when you cross two vectors, the resultant is always a perpendicular vector perpendicular to I and j, basically, which is k. And to find out the cross product, it's AB sine theta, not AB cos theta. Okay, you also need to know the formula of torque. How do you calculate torque? Torque is the cross product of force and displacement. Remember that, it's the cross product, it's not the dot product anymore. It's the cross product, and the formula is force multiplied by displacement multiplied by sine theta. Simple. Equilibrium of forces, you need to know both the conditions of equilibrium. You need to know that, and you also need to know how to do the cross product using the equations, vector equations. Remember that long method in which you had to put I, j, k, and the components of I, j, and k of each vectors have to place underneath one another, and then you follow the determinant rule and equate them to I minus j plus k. You need to follow all that method, and you need to learn that as well. This is important. Okay, equilibrium of forces, you need to know about both the conditions of equilibrium, both translational equilibrium, rotational equilibrium, and you also need to know the fact that unless a body is in both equilibria together, it will not be considered in equilibrium. Okay, so if a body is, all the net forces are 0 and all the torques are 0, only then is the body said to be in equilibrium, complete equilibrium. Okay, rotational equilibrium and translational equilibrium, you need to know the difference between both of them. You also need to know about the torque of the couple. You need to know about the couple forces as well. You need to know about calculation of moments as well. You need to know about equilibrium as well, and the second condition of equilibrium as well, which is the principle of moments. Remember, for equilibrium, clockwise moments must equal anti-clockwise moments. You need to know about all of that stuff. With this, the vector chapter is complete.